Shedeur Sanders learns worst-kept secret that casts doubt on Cleveland Browns' career. Shedeur Sanders is one of 4 quarterbacks currently vying for the Cleveland Browns' starting job, but the NFC South franchise might have a contingency plan in place. Shedeur Sanders is currently in a tight race for the starting quarterback position with the Cleveland Browns, and it seems another star player might soon join the competition. AS training camp kicks off this week. Sanders finds himself behind Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel on the Browns' depth chart. However, with strong performances in drills and practice, the Colorado product could potentially secure a top backup spot as the regular season approaches. If Sanders and his fellow Browns quarterbacks fail to deliver in 2025, the team may be forced to reconsider their quarterback lineup in the 2026 NFL Draft. On a recent episode of The Herd with Colin Cowherd, the FS1 host speculated that the Browns might consider drafting Arch Manning in the first round and pairing the Texas product with former Alabama head coach Nick Saban. "This is the worst-kept secret in the South," Cowherd started. Haslam, Jimmy, owner of the Browns, huge SEC Tennessee booster, leans heavily on the Manning family, very close to the Manning family. Nick Saban is incredibly close to not only Jimmy Haslam, but Saban's close to the Manning family as well. And so Saban, if he could land a top quarterback like Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers for Justin Herbert, he would take a phone call for the NFL. And there are 2 teams guaranteed to be awful this year in the NFL, Cleveland and the Saints. Nick Saban has coached in Cleveland with the Browns under the Belichick staff, and he coached at LSU. This is not a conspiracy theory. Considering the Browns' history of selecting high-profile quarterbacks early in the draft, Cowherd voiced his belief that Haslam would be ready to once again take a chance on a highly regarded prospect like Manning. And the Mannings are royalty to Jimmy Haslam, Cowherd continued. Jimmy Haslam also loves headlines. It's why he pushed the draft Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield. They were the most talked about quarterbacks. It's why he signed a ridiculous guaranteed contract for Deshaun Watson. It would get discussed. Despite Cowherd's confident prediction, Manning joining the Browns is far from guaranteed at this point. While the 21-year-old has been hailed as a once-in-a-generation talent, he must still demonstrate his abilities on the field before securing his position as a top draft selection. The Browns, on the other hand, might discover a reliable starter within their existing quarterback roster. Sanders, in particular, made a strong impression on his coaching staff while training with the second unit during the summer. "He's worked his tail off," said Browns offensive coordinator Tommy Rees about Sanders last month. "He's really putting in a lot of work like all those guys are. But you could tell on the mental side of the game and learning the system and calling it and having that rhythm to it. He's put a lot of work and time and effort into that, and then when you do that, the game starts to slow down, and you can focus on finding completions. And he's done a nice job of that as camp has progressed." The late afternoon sun dipped low over Berea, tinting the Browns' practice fields with a golden glow that belied the tension simmering beneath. Reporters gathered along the fence, notebooks ready, camera lenses trained on a quarterback whose name had been on everyone's lips since draft night. Shedeur Sanders walked through his warm UPS with his usual measured calm, tossing perfect spirals to reserve receivers, nodding at linemen, flashing that easy smile. But behind the smile, a storm churned. The secret no one wanted to say out loud. All summer, whispers had trickled through the Browns' facility like water through cracks. Coaches speaking in hushed tones in meeting rooms, veterans trading knowing looks during film sessions. It was the kind of rumor everyone pretended not to know while everyone absolutely knew. The worst-kept secret, as one staffer called it, finally reached Sanders' ears one humid Wednesday after practice. A veteran player, someone who'd taken him under his wing, pulled him aside in the locker room. "They ain't tell you?" the veteran muttered, glancing around. "Tell me what?" Sanders asked, confused. The vet sighed. "They've already decided, man. You're not in their long-term plan. Flacco's their guy this year, and they're looking past you for the future. They're lining up trades, scouting next year's class. Everyone knows it." Sanders froze. For a moment, the noise of the locker room, clanging weights, laughter, the thud of cleats on tile, faded into silence. A dream turning sour. Shedeur had come to Cleveland believing he would be groomed into a cornerstone. He'd imagined growing with the franchise, taking a city starved for a hero and giving them one. His father, Deion Sanders, had warned him about the NFL's cold business side, but hearing those words, not in their long-term plan, cut deep. He replayed everything in his mind. the dwindling reps in team drills, the decision to keep him behind not just Flacco, but also Kenny Pickett, the whispers about drafting another quarterback next year. It all clicked, and suddenly the smiles from coaches felt like masks. The praise in press conferences sounded rehearsed. A night of restless thoughts. That night, in his downtown apartment overlooking the lights of the city he thought he'd lead, Sanders sat on the couch, playbook open but unread. His phone buzzed with texts, friends, family, former teammates, all asking how camp was going. He didn't answer. Instead, he stared at the city skyline and imagined what his career might look like somewhere else. Atlanta, perhaps, where the fan base would embrace his dynamic playstyle. Maybe Las Vegas, where creativity was currency. Or even Denver, closer to the college roots where his legend began. For the first time since draft night, the orange and brown didn't feel like home. The tension grows. The next morning at camp, Sanders carried himself with quiet determination. If this franchise wasn't going to believe in him, he would make them regret it. He fired passes with extra zip in 7-on-7 drills. He scrambled out of collapsing pockets in full-team sessions, turning broken plays into highlights. Reporters noticed. Sanders looking sharp despite limited reps, one tweeted. Another wrote, feels like Shedeur is playing with a chip on his shoulder. They didn't know the truth. That chip had a name, a sentence he couldn't shake, not in their long-term plan. The veteran's warning. Later that week, the same veteran who'd broken the news to him pulled him aside again. Don't let it eat you up, Rook, he said. This league's about opportunity. If they don't give you one, someone else will. Keep your head straight. Sanders nodded, but his mind raced. Was staying in Cleveland worth it if the path was blocked before it began? Would a trade be seen as quitting, or as claiming control over his own destiny?